The Last Shadow Fae. Chapter 1. The Fae Who Had No Gift. For 17 years, Alara had believed she was ordinary. In the kingdom of Luminara, that was almost impossible. Every Fae was born with magic. Some were blessed with the power of nature. They could coax flowers from the soil, speak with animals, or grow vines with a single touch. Others belonged to the elemental clans. The river Fae could command water. The sky Fae could summon wind. The ember Fae could create fire. And the moon Fae were said to possess powers connected to dreams, illusions, and starlight. Every Fae discovered their first magical gift before their 18th birthday. Every Fae except Alara. She lived with her aunt, Malin, in a small cottage at the edge of Sunflower Glade. The cottage was built into the hollow trunk of an enormous golden willow tree. Its windows were round, its walls were covered in hanging herbs, and tiny glowing moths lived in the ceiling. Malin had raised Alara since she was a baby. At least, that was what Alara had always been told. "You were barely old enough to walk when I found you," Malin often said. "Where did you find me?" "In the woods." "Which woods?" Malin always smiled sadly. "The woods." It was the only answer Alara ever received. The subject had always seemed to make her aunt uncomfortable, so Alara had stopped asking. Instead, she grew up surrounded by the cheerful chaos of Sunflower Glade. Her closest friend was Rowan, a sky fae with untidy brown hair and a habit of accidentally blowing things away whenever he sneezed. His magical gift had appeared when he was 6. He had sneezed during a family dinner and sent every plate, cup, and spoon flying through the kitchen. His mother had been furious. His father had been incredibly proud. Rowan had been banned from the kitchen for 3 weeks. Alara had heard the story so many times that she could tell it better than he could. Her other best friend was Nessa, a river fae who could manipulate water. Nessa was calm, clever, and almost impossible to surprise. She could pull water from a stream and shape it into ribbons that danced around her wrists. She could make tiny floating spheres of water. Once, she had accidentally flooded an entire classroom. She had blamed Rowan. Rowan had blamed a squirrel. The squirrel had remained silent. Together, the 3 of them had grown up in the same village. They had climbed trees, stolen honey cakes from the market, explored forbidden paths, and spent countless summer afternoons swimming in the moonstream. But Alara was always the odd one. Not because she was strange. Not because she was unpopular. Because she had no magic. At first, everyone had assumed her gift would appear eventually. When she was 5, the village elders said she was simply a late bloomer. When she was 10, they suggested her gift might be unusually powerful and difficult to awaken. When she was 15, people began to whisper. By 17, most had stopped asking. Alara pretended not to notice. But she noticed everything. She noticed when conversations stopped as she approached. She noticed the way young fae looked at her during magical training. She noticed when parents told their children not to tease her. Most of all, she noticed the way Malin looked at her whenever someone mentioned the shadow fae. The shadow fae were a forbidden subject. According to history, they had once lived throughout the kingdom. They possessed unusual abilities connected to darkness and shadows. But centuries ago, the royal court had declared them dangerous. A war had followed. Afterward, the shadow fae had disappeared. The official story said they had been destroyed. The unofficial story said they had escaped. Alara had never paid much attention to the legends. Until the night before her 18th birthday. That was the night her life changed. The first lesson of magical training began at sunrise. Every young fae in Luminara attended the Academy of Gifts. It was not a traditional school. There were no books or desks. Instead, the academy was a collection of enchanted gardens, stone courtyards, underground caves, floating platforms, and training fields. Fae did not learn magic by reading about it. They learned by feeling it. The first stage was called the awakening. Students sat in circles and practiced finding the spark of magic inside themselves. They were taught to breathe slowly, to clear their minds, to listen to the feeling beneath their heartbeat. Every fae had a magical core, a small source of energy hidden deep within them. The instructors taught students to reach toward it. Then they taught them to pull. For some, the magic came easily. Nessa had discovered her water gift during her first lesson. She had closed her eyes, reached inside herself, and pulled. A stream of water had burst from the nearby fountain. Rowan had discovered his wind magic by falling off a platform. Instead of hitting the ground, a powerful gust had caught him. Alara had tried the same exercise. Nothing happened. She sat beneath the ancient oak tree with her eyes closed. She breathed in. She breathed out. She reached inward. Nothing. The instructor, Master Orin, stood behind her. Again. Alara tried. Nothing. Again. She tried harder. Still nothing. Around her, magic filled the courtyard. Fire sparked. Water swirled. Leaves danced. Wind roared. Alara remained still. Empty. When the lesson ended, Rowan dropped beside her. Maybe your power is invisible, he said. Alara glanced at him. That's convenient. I'm serious. Rowan, you once thought your magical gift was being able to whistle through your nose. It was a reasonable theory. Nessa sat beside them. Maybe Alara's gift just hasn't appeared yet. Alara smiled. She appreciated that Nessa still said things like that. But deep inside, she was beginning to wonder if everyone was wrong. Maybe she really was ordinary. That evening, Malin prepared Alara's favorite meal. Honey-roasted root vegetables, warm bread, and a small cake covered in glowing sugar flowers. You're 17, Malin said. Almost 18. Almost. Which means I only have 1 day left. Malin froze. Alara noticed. 1 day left for what? For nothing. You said that strangely. Malin placed the knife on the table. Did I? Yes. For a moment, the cottage was quiet. Then Malin smiled. Tomorrow is your birthday. You should be excited. I am. Alara looked down at her hands. Mostly. Malin reached across the table and took her hand. You are not defined by magic. I know. Do you? Alara did not answer. Malin's fingers tightened around hers. Then Alara felt something strange. A cold sensation moved through her palm. The candle beside them flickered. Its flame turned black. Malin immediately let go. Alara stared at the candle. The flame returned to normal. What was that? Malin stood so quickly that her chair scraped across the floor. Nothing. Aunt Malin. I said it was nothing. But Alara saw the fear in her eyes. And for the first time in her life, she wondered if Malin knew exactly what Alara was.